Between Europe and Asia, economic dialogue, humanitarian missions, multi-vector operating, and the search for compromises in the world arena. How else does Kazakhstan participate in the development of the modern world? For more details, watch the program Kazakhstan International Vectors. Today you will find out what is the food security, how the production of organics develops, and what countries will Kazakhstan feed.
The world tendency in the field of food supply today looks like this. There are developing countries where almost 795 million people are chronically undernourished, and there are developed states which produce much more food than they can consume, although no more than 20% of the world's population live there. Developing countries unable to provide their population with their own food are forced to import it in exchange for strategic material resources, precious metals and significant political concessions. If the UN forecasts for world population growth come true, then in 30 years the amount of food produced on Earth should grow by 60%. In this regard, ensuring food security is an ongoing process, being a priority for all countries in the world.
Today, the agro-industrial complex of any country has a colossal socio-economic significance, since it not only meets the population's needs for a number of important food products, but also reflects the overall standard of living in the country. Here we have removed small branches because they were growing inside. They were making shadow for the whole bush and hence there were no photosynthesis. Now we have opened this space. From here the light will fall and accordingly the apples would better strike up, they will be larger, they will be tastier. Ranai Farm was founded in 2010. Aybol Seydaliyev, director and ideological inspirer of the enterprise, says, first the landmark was taken on livestock, but we faced with the problem of shortage of personnel and in 2014 decided to switch to growing apples. Afterwards, the first territory of a garden of 25 hectares was planted. A year later, the volume of sown areas increased twofold. At the moment, we have set a goal to get about 30 tons of apples per hectare. This year we plan to get about 7 tons per hectare, and in the future we will increase these volumes up to 30 tons. Ideally, we even plan to get 50 tons per hectare, but this will be possible somewhere in 5 years approximately. Further, we've asked the local administration of Zhambyl district to give us a land of about 40 hectares, and if they do so, we plan to increase our garden and bring it to 100 hectares. Today, about 6 hectares of these cultivated areas are occupied by an intensive garden. Apples here are grown according to a special European technology. Here we have a hose pipe. It is called a drip hose. Here we have special holes situated 50 centimeters from each other, from which the water drips in the amount of 2 liters in an hour. And accordingly, for 8 hours, the ground will be completely saturated with the necessary moisture. Fruits and vegetables should be an integral part of the ratio of modern citizen, experts say. According to the World Health Organization, sufficient increase in the level of consumption of fruits and vegetables can potentially save up to 1.5 million lives annually.
According to WHO recommendations, daily consumption of at least 400 grams of fruits and vegetables help to prevent chronic diseases such as heart disease, cancer, diabetes and obesity, as well as to reduce the deficit of certain micronutrients, especially in less developed countries.
Aybol already plans to sell apples grown here this year to the large supermarkets. He says it will be his personal contribution to ensuring food security in the region. In addition, he sets trends in the development of agriculture. This is one of the first gardens in the region, but followers have already appeared in this direction. The family garden is widely developing in Kazakhstan. Thus, following this method, several large gardens were laid in the neighboring city of Taraz. The farm is divided into several sectors: apple orchards, a cattle breeding farm with horses and cows, and greenhouses. They were brought in quite recently.
корейские
We
теплицы.
have Korean greenhouses. This year we bought them, wrapped everything in film and planted tomatoes. Now we plan to receive 12 to 15 kilograms from 1 square meter.
Одного квадрата.
Today, these greenhouses occupy about 15 acres. In the nearest plans to increase in acreage of up to 30 acres and as a result to receive higher yields.
Ну вот здесь вот в данный момент.
Well, here we can see people cleaning the weeds at the moment, Dinara and Bakirjan. This plant can be also removed. It is not necessary here.
Вот это не нужно. Здесь посажены помидоры.
Here we have tomatoes planted in the amount of 2,000 pieces of the pink glamour kind. Well, here we already can see flowering. Tomato bushes slowly begin to bloom, and somewhere in a month and a half they will enter to the first stage of harvesting.
Уже начнется.
Already this year it is planned to collect up to 4 kilograms of tomatoes from one such tomato bush.
В данный момент мы построили.
At the moment, we have built a fruit store for 1,100 tons, and we plan to collect apples and store them in this fruit storage. And in the future, we will sell all our harvest in order to cover the food supply ring around our metropolis, the city of Almaty.
Города Алматы.
The Rome Declaration on World Food Security refers to the duty of any state to ensure the right of everyone to have access to food that is safe for health. In Central Asia, food security is defined as independence and self-sufficiency. To implement such an approach in the region, relevant laws and strategies are being developed. There is also limited consumer support from the state in the form of regulation of bread prices or a number of basic so-called social products.
The American agency, the Economist Intelligence Unit, annually makes a rating of food safety of the countries. Analysts assess the quality, safety, adequacy and accessibility of food products in 109 states. And in 2016, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan and Tajikistan significantly improved their performance. The leaders of the rating were the United States, Singapore and Ireland.
In Kazakhstan, food security is an important part of the strategy Kazakhstan 2050 announced by the president. In his message, Nursultan Nazarbayev noted that the agrarian sector should become a new driver of the economy. And it is possible to reach this goal firstly by the increase in production of demanded, competitive agricultural products. To do that, there are all necessary conditions in the country, experts say. For example, natural areas with favorable climate and fertile soils.
This program provides specific guidelines for increasing production of the most demanded products in the market and for the levels of internal saturation. That is, as a whole, an indicator is set for increasing the volume of gross agricultural output to 2021 by 30%.
Small peasant farms in Kazakhstan produce from 60 to 90% of the total food output: milk, meat, vegetables and fruits. However, such enterprises are not able yet to export them or to cover the import food dependence of the Republic.
Our local processing facilities are not loaded at their full capacities. We can say that the share of processing is weak, knowledge in the agrarian science is weak. We have high imports, low exports, so to say. All these factors formed the basis of the new program, became its priorities. That is, the program reproaches the mass involvement of small peasant farms in agricultural cooperation. Since last year, we have this instruction of the head of the state, and since last year it began to be performed, and there were already approximately 157 cooperatives, in which 15,000 private subsidiary farms have been involved.
Also, within the framework of the state program, a national certification system is being developed in the country. Work is being performed to promote organic products in the domestic and foreign markets, and the effectiveness of state support for solving export problems is increasing. For example, by 2021, the export of food products is planned to be increased by 40%. That is, with the same amount of financing, the coverage of agricultural producers in terms of subsidies will be increased by 7.5 times. And first of all, these will be small farms and agricultural cooperatives.
Сегодня уже принято.
Today, special roadmaps have already been adopted for each of the countries where we plan to export. These are Russia, China, and Iran. Roadmaps are being developed for India, for the countries of the Persian Gulf. Active work is underway to harmonize our standards and regulations.
Регламентов.
To date, the level of food supply through domestic production in Kazakhstan is about 80%. At the same time, there are products that not only fully cover the needs of the country, but are also being exported. They are bread, rice, pasta, and sour milk products.
Конечно же, есть продукты.
Of course, there are some products with which we do not fully provide ourselves yet, and high imports are present. This is poultry meat, sugar, butter, vegetable oil, fish and apples. For these products, we have a supply of slightly less than 50 or 60%. This is just the level of security for these types of food, and they are the priority for the state program.
To reduce import dependence in Kazakhstan at the state level, it is planned to introduce a feed balance in animal husbandry, the cultivation of pedigree cattle. In plant growing, orientation is made on cultivation of fodder crops. Within the framework of the branch law of state regulation of the industry, 3 criteria for improving food security were announced. Firstly, the physical availability of agricultural goods. This is the increase in production itself. Secondly, such goods should be economically accessible to all segments of the population. And thirdly, such products must be safe.
Отсюда следует,
It follows that food security is a complex, a whole range of issues, which includes not only production, but also unrestricted movement of such goods inside the country, outside different countries, and security of food products.
One of the important aspects of food security is the production of food that does not harm both people and the environment. These are organic products. Organic products are food products which are produced minimizing the negative impact on the environment and human health. This contributes much to the fertilization of soil. That is, in the organic agriculture, one of the main goals is to improving the conditions of soils. And accordingly, this is a whole complex, a system that starts from the ground production and ends with the sale of products. And the whole process is controlled by independent certifying companies. In the world, the main organization that is struggling to improve food security is the Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN. It works with international and national partners and donors and assists states and individuals in improving food security. FAO annually conducts research in the field of nutrition, and according to one of them, food in the world is gradually becoming cheaper.
At the end of 2016, a tendency of decline in food prices has been seen in the world. Thus, the grain price index on average fallen by almost 10%. Price index for meat products decreased by 4%. For dairy by 7%. The exception was sugar prices, which rose by more than a third.
According to the UN data, today the world produces food by 25% more than it is necessary for consumption. But despite this fact, about 1 billion people on the planet continue to starve.
Это говорит о том, что
All mentioned above means that the level of production or high yields is not the only indicator. There are also social and economic indicators, and the most important is the access to these food products. It turns out that in those countries where there are hunger and food shortages, there are certain problems with the access to it. What now needs to be addressed is not in the production plan, but in the sphere of social, economic and political issues. The largest importer of cereals today is China. According to analysts' forecasts, the needs of the inhabitants of the Celestial Empire in that kind of food products will reach 700 million tons by 2020, of which 100 million will be imported.
если мы говорим о Китае, то
If talking about China, then there too the demand for organic products is increasing. This demand is also growing every year. Production in China is increasing, and if in Kazakhstan about 300,000 hectares of land is certified, then in China this figure already reaches 2 million hectares. That is, it turns out that people are increasingly looking at how much the production is safe, how much the products produced in the agricultural sector affect the environment, how much it affects human health.
Продукция
Agrarians from different countries have begun to increase the level of food security through the development of organic farming. So, for example, in Turkey, the production of organic products is almost 30 years old. Everything started with grapes, and today the country produces more than 200 types of organic products: dried fruits, nuts, spices, fruits and vegetables, legumes and grains. Almost all of the above is exported mainly to the European countries, the USA, Canada and even Australia. Kazakhstan is not lagging behind on this issue.
это в основном культура.
Here there are mainly crops of grains, oil-bearing crops. There is a production of medicinal herbs in the Almaty region. There is a large vineyard that is certified according to the standards of the European Union. Most of the products are raw materials, which are export-oriented. The products are being exported to the countries of the European Union: Italy, Germany, Spain, Great Britain. There our Kazakhstani grain goes.
Это
In Kazakhstan, in the last 2 years, great steps have been taken in the sphere of organic agriculture. In 2015, a corresponding law was adopted, along with the rules for the circulation of organic products and the rules for the registration of producers. Today, there are about 30 of them in the country. Apart from that, about 300,000 hectares of lands in Kazakhstan are certified as organic lands. European countries and China are interested in domestic organic products. Kazakhstan has a great potential in this sphere of agriculture, since 90% of the republic's land areas are not contaminated with chemicals, and about half of the country's population today lives in rural areas.
органическая продукция.
Organic products are in great demand on the international market. Now the market is growing annually, and its growth every year is about 10 to 12%. Despite financial crisis, the market volume at the moment is about $80 billion. And given that the market has reached these figures since 1999, this is a giant step. Today, Kazakhstan is one of the largest grain exporters. The republic annually delivers more than 8 million tons to the countries of near and far abroad. Therefore, today, participating in the work of the UN Security Council, Kazakhstan can influence the issues of food security not only on its own territory, but also in other countries. The International Program of Student Entrepreneurial Projects Enactors, together with the representatives of domestic business, 2 years ago announced a competition called How to Feed Kazakhstan. It is designed to help with solving the acute social problems of saturating the local market with agricultural products of domestic production. In addition, such joint cooperation will serve the development of the small and medium business sector in the country, entrepreneurs say. Today, Ranai Farm has far-reaching plans. In the nearest future, they want not only to increase production capacity, but also to develop domestic tourism.
Здесь мы планируем создать
Here we plan to create a recreation area with the development of agro-tourism. And we also want to have here some kind of a national style. That is, for example, Kazakh customs. At the moment, here in the future, we plan to open saumal treatment. When people come here, relax, drink saumal, restore strength after the operation or just after a hard year of work.
тяжелого трудового года.
Experts are sure that everyone can contribute to ensuring food security. For example, Aybol, in addition to growing vegetables and fruits, has already planted 100 coniferous trees on his farm. And when they will fully grow up, guests and locals will have a great chance to walk in the real, small fir tree forest.
Допустим, он предприниматель. Если он
Suppose a person is an entrepreneur, so if he or she works, he or she has an income, that is, he or she ensures the economic availability of food for him or her and the family. But if this citizen is engaged in agriculture, say in plant growing or breeding cattle, he or she solves the problem of physical accessibility of food for himself or for neighbors for his native region.
или для соседей.
The countries of Central Asia have reached one of the Millennium Development Goals, halved the number of hungry people in the region. UN experts are sure that further work in this direction, along with increasing support of the agro-industrial complex by the state, will help to ensure food security of all countries in the world.